and thanks to all of you for traveling from the far corners of the world to attend this conference. Of course, from all of our member nations, but when I was looking at some of the attendance, we also have some people here from Thailand and Uruguay. So thanks to everyone, member nations and non-member nations, for your interest and support. It's much appreciated and necessary for us to achieve. A little bit about myself. I've been in nuclear procurement for my entire career, more than 20 years. It's all I've done. Private sector, public sector, and I'm very happy to be a part of this. I've joined here 18 months ago, and I think this project is a very important thing for the world, and I'm guessing by the attendance here, you all happen to agree with that. Okay. So my presentation is divided into 4 sections. The ITER Procurement strategy will be discussed in section 2. I also want to explain a little bit about just exactly what ITER Procurement is, as well as discuss the ITER Procurement processes. I know this close to lunch, the thought of discussing processes and procedures probably is a bit dry for all of you. I apologize for that, but keep in mind, if you want a contract, these processes are the path to go through. And lastly, we'll discuss changes for efficiencies. No organization is perfect. No person is perfect. We know that, and we are always looking for ways to improve. So at its core, ITER is a construction project. More than that, it's a full EPC project, engineering, procurement, and construction. But like everything at ITER, we're a bit unique, so we have to add an S in front of that for the science. We're an SEPC. So as an SEPC, which phase are we currently in? Well, ITER will never, I think, be finished with the S or the E, but at this point, building structures are largely completed. Standard systems are completed. Repair contracts are underway. All of these things clearly demonstrate that our focus has shifted to the construction phase. Engineering will always happen, but now we're focused on the construction phase. When you make that shift, a different type of procurement is needed. When you're focused on engineering and science, a certain strategy is required. Construction requires something different. So now we need to shift to that construction phase and consider challenges such as detailed assembly, coactivity concerns. If you've been through the site tour, the pit is not that large of an area. To have multiple contractors in there doing multiple activities all at the same time is a big challenge that we need to keep in mind. Also, as we go through these detailed assemblies, issues will naturally arise. It's something we should all expect, but we need to have a procurement system that's fast enough to respond to those issues and solve them in real time. So in this phase, what is ITER Procurement? I'm sure you've all heard the saying that numbers don't lie, so I chose to answer this question by the numbers themselves. Firstly, the team itself. This is our org structure, very simple, very streamlined, and it is comprised of 45 individuals representing all of the member states, 15 different nations, and 5 different continents. The title of this presentation is Success via Diversity, and the way that this team is structured is very diverse. We have diverse nationalities, diverse experience levels, diverse backgrounds, and we're trying to leverage every one of those different aspects to get the most likely outcome of success. We're well positioned to review every situation from multiple angles and choose the unique solution that's the most appropriate for each individual scope. So what is that team capable of? In 2024, as Pietro mentioned, we set a new record for ITER. It was the single largest annual commitment that had ever been achieved, 760 million euros across over 3,000 procurement actions. We used 14 different procurement methods, and all ITER members were represented in that spend. A record-setting year. The team performed very well. I'm very proud of the ITER team, But I also have to thank all of you for that. We could not have achieved something like that without all of you working hard to support us during our tender phases. You've probably seen us routinely request shortened bid cycle times. You've responded to that and helped us with it. So thanks to the ITER team, and also thanks to all of you for your willingness to support with this. Continuing with the theme of by the numbers, nearly every commodity type was represented in 24. Some of the specifics, approximately 190 million for structures and buildings, 98 million for public utilities, 430,000 for office equipment, 12 million for electrical, 20 million for security. The list goes on and on. When I was reviewing this data set, I was trying to think of an industry that we did not spend with. What industry did we not represent? And the only one that really came to my mind was the video game industry. I don't think there's an ITER video game out there yet. And then I came to this conference and saw the VR headset at the ITER booth so you can walk through the 3D model. Okay, maybe we had to spend some money with the video game industry after all, so I think every single one was represented. It's quite a diverse portfolio of industries to invest with. We've done it previously, and we're going to continue to do so. Okay, so 24 was a record. Pietro mentioned it. 25, what are we doing now? Well, we're not slowing down, that's for sure. We're speeding up. I can look at this front row here and I see all the people constantly telling me to speed up. So we're doing it. We are moving faster. We have targets set this year to exceed what we did in 24. We have a forecasted spend of 1.3 billion euros. Now, some of you bright sparks are probably thinking, well, Pietro said 900 million. That's a different number. No, it's not a different number. It's inclusive. So what Pietro was referring to was new contracts. Well, as you'll see later on in this presentation, we have multiple mechanisms to interface with industry. The total allocation for 2025, contracts and all other mechanisms, is 1.3 billion euros. It will be the largest annual commitment for the ITER project to date, and I'm happy to report that we are already on track to achieve that. At this point, we have 1,400 actions already initiated for a total value of 740 million. Now you notice I chose the word initiated very carefully there, not awarded. These processes take time, and initiating for large actions is a very important step so that you can have the full duration to do things properly, both the supply chain and at ITER, and still award within the year. So this is why I chose the word initiated, not awarded. And if you do the math on that, so it's 3,500 actions, and I have checked with project controls on this, so there's 234 working days in the year. If you run the numbers on that, that's 15 actions per day. That is a tremendous amount of work to do. Our team, I think, is up to the task, and we're going to have to use every tool available to us to succeed. And that's what we're working to do. We also are going to need a very important strategy for this. How do you make that shift and go to 2 consecutive record-setting years? You have to have a new strategy. Let's not forget that it's not only speed. The money that we're talking about here, very large numbers, is all of your money. It's public procurement. We have to be fast, but we also have to be responsible. We have to protect your money. So when I joined the IO 18 months ago, I wanted to ensure that the procurement team was quick, fair, and forward-thinking. A lot of these tools were already in place, but like anything, there's room for improvement. We had work to do to truly achieve those elements. So we set a strategy of flexibility. If you've worked in procurement before, you know no 2 contracts are ever the same. Even if it's the same thing that you're trying to just buy again a few years later, things have changed. People have changed, views have changed, the economies have changed. It's never doing the same thing twice. We have to be flexible in order to make this tight schedule work. In order to be able to achieve this, we need flexibility. Balance. Balance is a tricky thing. If we're too one-sided towards ITER or the supply chain, it won't work. If we're too one-sided towards any one of the numerous requirements that we have, it doesn't work. You have to find that perfect balance between all of the elements, all of the angles, to choose the right path. Balance is essential. Continuous improvement. Things change over time. Economic conditions, global positions change. You have to constantly be re-reviewing your processes and change to be the correct, appropriate thing at the time, in the moment. Embraced uniqueness. Uniqueness is a word. I had to confirm it, but it is. And you're probably wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, embraced uniqueness. ITER is a unique project. We've heard many people speak about that already today. That unique project comes with a unique status as an international organization. As an international organization, we're subject to different requirements, different policies, different regulations. We need to be able to leverage that unique situation, that unique flexibility, and use it to the best of our ability. It's a very difficult thing to do when you go out and retain top talent that has deep experience within the EU regulations, or the Chinese, or the Korean, all the different nations. And then you bring them into the international organization structure and want them to do something different from that. We need to be able to leverage the unique situation to take the best of all of those things and really streamline it and come up with a unique package of how we do things. That's what I mean when I say embrace uniqueness. The ITER position is different. We need to allow it to be different. Transparency is also a very important thing. It's your money. You all need to know what we're doing with it. And we embed transparency in all of our procurement actions here. Now, just because we're a unique status doesn't mean we can do whatever we want, okay? That's not true. We have policy, we have guidance, we have regulations, we have auditors. The Financial Audit Board was just at the ITER facility reviewing things, so we have standards we're held to as well. The policies that we have overarching principles, one of the most important of which is sound financial management. This is your money. We have to be the responsible custodians of it. We must spend it wisely. We also need to strive for alignment with the member contributions. It's approximately 9% for all of the member nations, with the exception of the EU, that's at 46. Now, alignment with member contributions is a very important target that we need to strive for within adherence of our policies. And ultimately, we need to adhere to the ITER agreement, the highest level guidance that we have. So as we go through that and we execute this procurement plan, we have various tools and acquisition methods at our disposal to use to interface with the supply chain. For each scope, we need to make a conscious decision. Should this be full competition? Should it be restricted competition? Should it be a sole source? Once that's made, should we use a framework contract, construction works contracts, various mechanisms for each one of these? Once those decisions are made, what should the pricing models be within them? Should it be fixed price? Should we do prototyping, as Kathy was discussing? There's various methods that we need to consider. We also need to ask ourselves the important question. We have domestic agencies that work with us on all of this scope. Is the IO the correct way to do this, or should we be leveraging our DAs? Every one of these decisions needs to be asked for each individual scope. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So to the various processes. We have a diverse project, a diverse team, and we need diverse processes to go through it, and we certainly have that. So ITER obtains its required materials, equipments, and services through two different mechanisms. You've heard them referred to already today a little bit. So we have in-kind, which is for items directly provided by the DAs. In cash, which is what I'm speaking about today, is for the procurement specifically done by the IO. Now, rest assured, if something is going through in kind, through the DAs, it does not mean that it's off the table for the supply chain. It just means that it's done in accordance with the procurement policies of the DAs, not the IO. Now, because we have to follow, at the IO, the principles of public procurement, the mechanisms that we use should be no surprise to you. 7 different procedures. This can be a rather busy slide. I could probably spend 2 hours just discussing each one of these boxes. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. What you'll notice, though, all of them except one is competition. It's varying levels of competition. Sole source and some of the restricted mechanisms are to be used in exceptional circumstances. But these circumstances, where they are the correct choice, do emerge. There are times that we have to choose one of these 7 appropriate mechanisms. Now, hopefully you can see that a bit better on the big screen. Yeah, that is a bit better. So the different procedures, as I referenced, they take time. The question is how much time? If you take those 7 processes, you can distill them down to approximately 3 different process flows with average durations. Call for tender, which is used for our largest, most complex items, currently takes an average of 8 months from when procurement receives the specification to when the actual ink is on the page of the contract. You're probably thinking that's a very long time, and 8 months is a long time. But to the supply chain, I'd like to ask you, if you think about this from the viewpoint of a €100 million contract, when you receive that tender package, how much time do you want to review it and make your proposal, to interface with your subcontractors, perhaps form consortia? How much time do you need for your internal review processes? Then think that we at the IO have the exact same processes to go through. When you start to think all of those things through, those individual steps, perhaps 8 months isn't so bad. Then as we move down through open tender, you go to 5 months average, and restricted tender is down to 4 months. So you notice a correlation that as the competition gets reduced, so does the time frame. But as I mentioned, competition is good for the principle of sound financial management. So there's this delicate balance that we have to choose. Now these are averages. Okay, I can see Sergio scratching his head a little bit. These are averages. Averages don't apply to every situation. As a matter of fact, each situation, when we bring these up for discussion to set the procurement strategy, we tailor the processes. We tailor them and compress. We are always looking for ways to make these faster. And we're asking that the supply chain does the same thing for your own internal processes. We're looking for ways to compress and be efficient. We ask that you do the same on your side. And together, we can shorten all of these durations. For the nuts and bolts of how we do tenders, we use IPROC. That is simply ITER's name for the Ariba software system that we use. If you're not familiar with it, it does take a bit of learning, just like any new software system. But once you go through the process a few times, it actually does work quite well. Now, the first step in this is to register your company. If you are already registered, congratulations, you're a step ahead. If you're not registered, you're at this forum, and it's a great time to do so. There are procurement representatives at the main ITER booth to assist you with that vendor registration for the remainder of this forum. I highly recommend that you use that approach. I'm also aware that some of you through B2B sessions yesterday have been asking some more detailed questions about how to navigate the system. It's an excellent way to do this. We're here to help you with all of that. this is what the system looks like. Nothing scary, nothing too unique. You can see tabs across the top for the different types of tenders that we do, color-coded, tender progress bars. We really do try to make it as user-friendly as possible. It shouldn't be any sort of an issue to navigate this software system. Again, if you have questions, there are people here who can walk you through that. So for the fourth session, changes of efficiency. Right? What are we doing to help you? I've discussed continuous improvement. So this is not just words. We have actually been making changes throughout the last year. We've been changing processes, procedures, and templates. All of it has been the interest of streamlining for efficiency. So what actually did we do? Well, in 2024, the baseline presented a nice challenge for procurement. Pietro asked us to do more than ever before in less time with the same people, with the same resources. Not an easy ask. But the only way to achieve this is to streamline the processes. We simply must be faster and more nimble in order to succeed in accordance with this baseline. With that goal in mind, we've reviewed each step in the process. We know a long, burdensome procurement process is not only bad for the IO, it's bad for all of you. So we had to figure out a way to be better, and we have. In 2024, we undertook a very detailed review of our terms and conditions, and we modified them to ensure a better, more balanced approach. Exceptions that all of you had routinely been requesting of us and we were able to accept, we made them standard practice. In general, we simplified the language for ease of use and review. And why did we choose this area to look at? We saw from our tender processes where certain delays were occurring. And maybe delays isn't even the right word, but we saw where time was being consumed. And quite a bit of time was being consumed on the terms and conditions. That's why we focused on this area. We also looked internally and thought to ourselves, what else can we do? We revised the Mack thresholds for internal review processes, but more than that, there's alternative consultation methods that were available to us within existing tool sets. We just simply weren't using them. I'm not sure why, but we weren't, and we are now. By using those existing tools, we were able to speed up that process and remove the delay burden by it. We've also reduced or eliminated internal administrative processes wherever possible. We'll continue to review that. We allow steps to run in parallel. That everything does not have to be perfectly start to finish sequencing. You can run things in parallel. We now allow that. We created new tools and refined existing tools. In some cases, we've even implemented live contract reviews where a previous online review was taking a week or 2 weeks. Now it can be done in a matter of hours. All of these revisions were completely essential to that record-setting performance that we discussed in 24. But we're not done. If that target has to be exceeded in 25, we have to continue streamlining. We really have to. So the main initiatives we're doing for 2025, the first one is the supplier database. This is a very large initiative. It has ties to supplier qualification, which, when put in place, should greatly shorten or even reduce the qualification phase within the tender processes. I received that comment from quite a few of you that the pre-qualification process is very burdensome. We're looking at it. We're going to fix it this year. In addition to that, it's going to have ties to intellectual property and suspect counterfeit tracking. This database will not only help the tenders instantly, but it will also look further down the line and assist with knowledge transfer and regulatory compliance. Furthermore, we're drafting new construction contract templates. Some of the existing mechanisms are rather burdensome, and we're trying to develop our own in-house template that will allow us to be faster and more nimble. We're going to modify the approach to negotiations as well as the timing of it. We're exploring AI. I see Williams down here in the front. He's the person spearheading this for me in procurement. It's a fascinating area that has a lot of potential. We really need to figure out how to leverage it. And we're going to continue our efforts to integrate with the DAs. As I mentioned, in some cases, they're the best suited for this scope. We have mechanisms to do it. So those are our ideas for how we can change for efficiency. But if we're trying to be diverse, we need your viewpoints as well. So we have recently launched a survey to over 1,500 suppliers to request your ideas, to request your feedback on our processes. At present, we only have about a 10% response rate. So if you scan this QR code, it takes you directly to the survey. And any of you who have worked with us before, or if you haven't and want to see it, please scan the code, and we would really appreciate your feedback. We're trying to get this participation up to, at a minimum, about 25%. From that feedback, we want to add initial ideas and ways to put even more improvements in place in 25. Not only our views, but also yours. Future contracting opportunities. I received many B2B requests to go through the future opportunities. It's been discussed a little bit by the DA heads as well. That's not going to be discussed in my presentation here today. So I'm sorry to disappoint any of you who were looking for that. It's like a good movie that says "to be continued" and you have to tune in later. Well, there's so many details to go through for these contracting opportunities. That's why all the thematic sessions are in place. These are the places to go to for the detailed reviews, for the detailed Q&A sessions about the upcoming opportunities for the IO. So this is really why I put this up here, is to have all of you go there, and I really encourage you to attend and have detailed interactions during these sessions. I look forward to seeing you in the hallways and also in these thematic sessions to discuss. Okay, so with that, I thank you all for your time.